Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the 1978 Star Wars Death Star Droid action figure. I think it's difficult to understand just how big of an influence Star Wars figures had on the toy industry if you weren't there at the beginning. There really hadn't been all that many licensed toys at that point. The Evel Knievel stunt cycle had been a huge hit for the Ideal Company in 1973, but Kenner didn't just release a single toy to start off their run. They released an impressive assortment of 12 action figures plus vehicles before they really even knew how well the toys would sell. By comparison, other action figures licensed to correspond with movies had much smaller assortments. Tron and Clash of the Titans each had only 4 figures in their entire line. The first wave of Raiders of the Lost Ark figures had only 4 figures, and even including their second wave of figures and figures packaged with playsets, there were only 11 figures in the whole line. The Legend of the Lone Ranger line featured just 5 figures. The movie Dune had only 6 figures. By comparison, releasing 12 figures and 3 vehicles for an upcoming movie that could have been a flop seemed like quite a risk. It would have been pretty easy to leave out the Jawa, Sand People, and Death Squad commander, bringing the total down to 9 figures, which still would have been a great first wave. But Kenner really rolled the dice with this line right out of the gate. Of course, it paid off, and another 8 figures arrived the next year. But when you think about it, a first wave of 12 figures is quite ambitious for a toy line for a movie that wasn't even out when they started working on the figures. When the second wave of figures came out in 1978, I was thrilled to have some new characters. The Luke Skywalker in his X-Wing flight suit was my favorite of the second batch of figures. The aliens were obviously awesome as well. I had the cardboard cantina set from Sears, so I was lucky enough to have the very rare blue Snaggletooth, which I guess technically makes 9 figures in the second wave. I wasn't crazy about Power Droid, but I did like R5-D4 and the Death Star Droid. Even as a very young kid, there was something weird about them. I wouldn't have been able to articulate it at the time, but I felt like they were dime store knockoffs of R2-D2 and C-3PO. In my mind, R5-D4 was a harmless, less awesome version of R2-D2, but the Death Star Droid seemed much more sinister. My Death Star Droid's personality and character was probably different each time he took part in one of my adventures. I honestly never had a very good idea of his character as a kid, but I suspect that he was usually hanging out with the bad guys. When I got the figure, I had only seen the movie once, and that had been in the theater. I didn't really remember him even being in the movie from one viewing, so most of what I picked up about the character was what I inferred from the photo on the package and from the figure himself. But as you can see from my childhood figure, the Death Star Droid saw a lot of action and is very worn. As a kid, I didn't know much about the Death Star Droid beyond what I saw when I looked at the figure, which was basically a mean-looking silver C-3PO, but I guess having the word death in their name was a bit ominous. However, there is more to the Death Star Droid than a silver finish. The proper name for the Death Star Droid is RA-7. RA-7s are examples of protocol droids like C-3PO, droids that were originally designed to help with language translations and cultural customs between scientists from different cultures. Interestingly, the personality of the RA-7 is very distasteful, which is uncommon for protocol droids. Most RA-7s were used as spies because they were manufactured for the Empire and were used on the Death Star. The RA-7s are often referred to as Death Star droids, even though percentage-wise, a relatively small number of them actually worked on the Death Star. RA-7s don't like being called Death Star droids and take offense when the name is used. Although, since they're protocol droids, I'm not sure they can really do anything about it. What do you think of the Death Star droid? Did you have a Death Star droid action figure as a kid? If so, how did he fit into your adventures? Do you remember what you thought of him at the time, and has your opinion of him changed over time? Tell me in the comments below. Also, please give this video a thumbs up and share it on social media. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell so that you'll be notified when I post new videos. And one last thing, if you're a fan of toys, you should know about Toylanta, the biggest toy show in the southeastern United States held annually just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Visit Toylanta.com for more information. As always, thanks for watching.